So, what's your perfect idea of a wrestling belt? Is it going to be big? Is it going to be small? Is it going to have loads of gold on it? Is it going to weigh a certain amount?
They say that a title belt is a prop, and it really is. It gives an aesthetic value to whoever you put it on. So I think the belt needs to match the individual, and we can elaborate on that further with some of these. But it's very important. It's an important aesthetic in professional wrestling.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we're going to be talking about our basically favorite wrestling belts. We've gone through, I would say we've gone through history in a way. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, let's be honest. For most wrestling fans, our favorite title belts are going to be ones that we saw growing up,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. So yeah, we've got an interesting mix here, and I'm pretty excited to talk about this. This is kind of a different left field kind of topic for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. But as always, intern, roll the intro. And welcome to episode 128 of the Magic of Wrestling podcast. I'm, of course, one half of the host, Liam Wakeland.
And I am the American half of this program from across the pond, the very large pond called the Atlantic. I'm the effing expert, Mr. Isaacs.
Of course. And Mr. Isaacs, we do this every single week. It's obviously our weekly catch up. How's the week been?
It is very cold. Like it is currently 13 degrees, but when I woke up at like 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock this morning, it was 4 degrees here in Kentucky. So yeah, we've had snow, we've had ice. It's been an interesting week.
Yep, exactly. It's been exactly the same. Obviously, over here it's been really, really cold, so I can kind of know how you feel there. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Do you all get a lot of snow and ice in England?
I think we get more ice than snow, to be honest.
That's nice.
You're literally walking like down the streets like Bambi on ice.
We got some folks in the house. We got GM Joe. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
GM Joe, good to have you here in the house. Looks like good old Aaron made his presence known. How come the wrestling ring in the intro has duct tape down the middle of the ropes?
It's been working too hard.
It's because it's actually a boxing ring, Aaron. Like if you look at boxing fights, you often see the tape going down the middle of the ropes about halfway through the ring.
Have you just debunked our intro?
Yeah, boxing, wrestling, MMA, it's all related.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we closed the damn thing with an octagon.
Are you basically saying we're diverse here?
We're diverse. We talk about all combat sports. All effing combat. How about that?
There we go. Aaron, that's a show idea. Let's be honest. Right then, so enough rambling on. We've got to get something out of the way before we talk in our main event. We do it every week. It's called, what, Mr. Isaacs?
The Magic Weekly.
Sorry, I'm finishing it off.
Nah, we got Tiffany in the house. What's up, Tiffany?
Good evening, Tiffany. Welcome to the show. Yeah, I mean, of course, the Magic Week is brought to you by one of our sponsors. We talk about this one every single week. Mr. Isaacs, give a little insight to FTW Wrestling.
Brian Idle and Natalia Markova run a wrestling school in Largo, Florida, $250 a month. If you want to be a pro wrestler, you're in the area, give them a look. We got a nice little video package here to show you.
Check it out.
Determination, perseverance. These are the qualities that make a champion. Do you have what it takes to be the next wrestling superstar? Are you ready to turn your dreams into a reality? At Fight the World Wrestling's World Wrestling Academy, we can help you become the champion you were meant to be. Our world travel trainers, Brian Idle and Natalia Markova, are well-known industry professionals with years of experience in the world of wrestling. From the basics to advanced techniques, they are dedicated to help give you the tools that you need to succeed in the ring. Our training program is tailored to challenge you, push you to your limits, and help you discover your full potential. Come join our diverse group of talent. Join us at Fight the World Wrestling's World Wrestling Academy and make your dream a reality. Visit our website or contact us to learn more and start your journey to the top today.
Today. Not tomorrow, not today after, today. Dear. You've got a nice little range of obviously stuff for obviously the Magic Week of this week. I want to start off with this one because I thought this was absolutely brilliant. A certain name, Butch, goes back to his old name, which is, of course, Pete Dunne. I absolutely love this, by the way, because I'm just thinking about Absolute Time. And I love the fact that the announcer said a bit of an identity crisis. I'm like, finally. I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, I love this. I think this is a great move. This is one of those things of Triple H kind of undoing some of the shit that happened when Vince came in. You know, same thing with like Max Dupree and LA Knight. There was no reason to change Pete Dunne to Butch. Butch is such a generic name. Butch and Luke were the Bushwhackers, so you're creating a bit of a conflict of identification there. And they took Pete Dunne, who is this kind of classic, British style, twist the arm, twist the fingers, Zack Sabre Jr. type, Billy Robinson type. They took him from the Bruiserweight and they put overalls on him and they made him this goofy, like cartoonish Three Stooges kind of guy that would come out and wildly swing his arms and I can't control myself. I got to fight. I mean, it was just so stupid. I'm just so glad to see him go back to his true self and being Pete Dunne because he's a phenomenal wrestler. And I'm hoping he gets a little bit of a bump from this.
And he's actually from the UK, so that's why I wanted to start with this, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm glad to see Tyler Bate back, too, in a tag team with him. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I came across my news feed, obviously, this morning, and I'm like, we've got to talk about this because it's like, it's obviously names change, obviously, in WWE, but we've said it for weeks that we want Pete Dunne to go back to Pete Dunne, not Butch. So I'm kind of happy this has happened, to be honest.
Absolutely. We got Noob in the house. What's up, Noob? Always one of our best supporters. Tiffany says Butch sounds like a name of a guy who was born at 45 years old. Yeah, he's one of these guys that has like a receding hairline when he's like 12. Yeah, that's what you think of when you think of a man named Butch. Or kind of like those guys from like the 40s and 50s that they were like 25 years old, but they look like a 55-year-old today.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So, yeah, moving on. Booker T obviously reacts to Grayson Waller's controversial interview. So, on a recent episode of the Hall of Fame podcast, WWE Hall of Famer Booker T provided his reaction to the controversial segment, and he simply said, "That's what you get." Booker said Waller handled it properly. He wasn't giving the guy a fake punch. I don't know much about this, so maybe you can enlighten me what's gone off here.
Yeah, so this was a situation where LA Knight and Grayson Waller went to Australia to promote the Elimination Chamber that's going to be there in February. And the host of the show were kind of being all, slightly dismissive of pro wrestling. Like, oh, these moves. Why don't you come perform one of these moves on us and show us exactly how this is done? Basically asking them to show, hey, come show us a fake move and how it's done. And, LA Knight kind of just played it off and was like, I don't think we should do that. And then eventually, after being egged on by the host, he said something to Grayson Waller, like, do you want to handle this? And Grayson Waller basically said, I think you're disrespecting my art form and you're disrespecting what we do. And I'll come over there. If I come over there and give you a punch, I'm not giving you a fake punch. I'm giving you a real one.
Well,
it was an interesting moment. And I say kudos to Grayson Waller for that. Like, I like that, especially with him being a heel. I think it fits. Now, obviously, there's an instance where Vader and Undertaker did this. And I think it was it South Korea or somewhere over an Asian country. I can't remember specifically where. Or no, I think it was in the Middle East, actually. But anyways, Vader was on on a TV show with The Undertaker, and the host said something about it being fake. And Vader got up and screamed and shouted at him and said, "I'll show you how fake this is," and like grabbed him by the tie and like pulled him out of the chair and scared the guy shitless, because Vader was like 4 times his size. And he ended up actually going to jail for that for a period of time. But yeah, this kind of took me down memory lane to seeing that clip of Vader, which is a very funny clip here on YouTube if you haven't seen it. But I say good Grayson Waller. I think I liked it personally.
Yeah, the one I thought about when you've just said it there was, do you remember the documentary? I think it was one with Foley where he wants to try and like debunk wrestling, and the guy like just literally like throw him around. I can't remember exactly which documentary it was.
I don't know. I mean, I know there's the famous Jim Stossel interview with Dr. David D. Schultz, where Jim Stossel's like this. He's still around. He's like a Fox News guy. He's a big kind of libertarian Republican. He does a show on Fox News every weekend. But he was just kind of it was like a little Dateline or 2020 or one of those stupid shows. He was a reporter for them back in the 80s. And he did an expose about professional wrestling, which, I mean, you could see this on Dark Side of the Ring.
That's exactly what I was referring to.
Yeah. I didn't know if that's what you meant or not, but yeah, like he went backstage and they set out David Schultz and, this little Jim Stossel. It's just like a little unassuming nerd with a mustache. And he was just like, "I think what you do is fake." And David Schultz like, "Fake? You think what I do is fake? How's this for fake?" And then he just slaps him and like completely knocks him on his ass. And then Stossel kind of awkwardly gets up and he slaps him again. He's like, "You're going to get up, you that damn stupid? Stay down." And I mean, it was just, it was hilarious for the time. Obviously, if somebody did that now, it'd be a huge, huge deal. But that's kind of the first documented case of this that I've seen, of a reporter questioning wrestling or mocking it and a wrestler physically retaliating.
I think we covered that obviously on a previous episode, that actual segment, because we were like, holy shit, what the hell?
It's a very famous clip. Yeah, I mean, they talked about it on Dark Side of the Ring. Of course, John Stossel sued, got a lot of money from Vince, and he kind of dismissively now is like, "Oh yeah, I sued Vince McMahon and I bought a Via in Italy with that money, so it all worked out for me." Pompous little ass.
Yeah. Now it's funny you mentioned Dark Side of the Ring, because that kind of goes into our perfect, segment, which is Dark Side of the Ring. Obviously, has got a new season. There's a couple of obviously things what's going to be in like the covering. Obviously, Kurt Angle, Buff Bagwell. The one with Vince, Brutus Beefcake. There's quite a few. I'm going to be honest, the Kurt Angle one really intrigues me.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a very interesting episode for sure. Yeah. I would assume, but I don't know for sure. I'm wondering if Kurt himself is taking part in that.
Do you think?
Have we heard about that?
I have not.
Okay, so that'll be interesting too, because I'm just wondering how deep down the rabbit hole they're going to go in Kurt Angle's demons if he's actually part of the program. But yeah, Kurt Angle, man, he went through that period of time from like WWE ECW to TNA where he was pretty messed up, and ironically did some of his best in-ring work ever during that time period. But yeah, I mean, he had a lot of personal demons at the time, and the split with Karen and the deal with Jeff and everything. I'm just kind of curious to see how all that's going to be handled on the show.
Yeah, the one thing you just mentioned there is I remember more of his TNA stuff than his WWE stuff. I'm not saying he had any bad things in WWE, but I remember more about what he did in TNA because I felt like I think he made more of an impact in TNA.
An impact. I see what you did there. No, but like, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before. I like TNA Kurt better than WWE Kurt, and that's kind of a hot take. But I liked his badass shooter character. I liked his rap music intro. He came out with a hood over his head and a mouthpiece in, like a real fighter. And he wasn't doing comedy shtick like in WWE of like, "Hi guys, I'm the Olympian. Let me drink some milk." I liked him better in TNA. I prefer TNA Kurt over WWE Kurt.
Definitely. Is there any more obviously on this list what you're excited about? I'm curious to see the Vince one.
Yeah, I mean the Vince one's going to be interesting for sure. Brutus Beefcake, that's kind of interesting. I'm curious to see what they have about him. I mean they're all going to be interesting. I think it's a fantastic documentary. I don't think GM Joe's a fan. Says more hit jobs by Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh dear.
Ric Flair would agree with that statement.
He's already been on that show for various reasons.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned obviously TNA then, and this is obviously my next piece. I love this because it's kind of like going into the next segue every single time. Now, Nick Nemeth obviously is now in TNA. I don't know if you saw his promo this week.
I saw a little bit of it, yeah. And yeah, I'm excited that he's there. And I tell you, I am intrigued by TNA. And I'm thinking about picking up TNA Plus for at least a month or two and checking it out because, and this is kind of a sidetrack here, but I watched the Josh Alexander Will Ospreay match from this week because they uploaded it to YouTube. Wow, what a phenomenal match! Like an absolute clinic, a great wrestling match. The crowd was hot for it. The selling was on point. The moves were on point. This looked like to me. And I don't know what people are going to feel about this, but this looked like prime Kurt Angle versus prime Shawn Michaels. I mean, that's what this match looked like to me. It was absolutely amazing. And if TNA's putting on those caliber of matches, it sparked my interest. I'm going to check out more of their stuff. But I saw a little bit of the Nemeth promo. I know he was confronted by Macklin, and I'm curious to see what happens there. We're going to see some good stuff, man. Speedball Mike Bailey, Josh Alexander. If Ospreay puts on any more matches, I know Okada's going to be there next week. I'm curious. They've got my interest. I'm curious to see what they've got next.
Yeah, so the reason obviously I picked this promo in particular is because there's two talking points which was said there, and I obviously want to get your thoughts on it. He said that in 19 years, he's done obviously a lot, but he's only done it in one world. And I sat and thought about it going, he is kind of on point. Obviously, the wrestlers we think of has done it, like Kenny Omega is an example. He's done a lot in New Japan. He's done obviously some things in AEW. There's so many wrestlers where you can make that prime thing. But Dolph, for me, he's right in what he's saying. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Dolph Ziggler is one of those guys that kind of came up in the WWE bubble. He came from the Spirit Squad. The Spirit Squad came from OVW. And he went straight to the WWE, and he was in WWE forever. And he's just one of those homegrown guys that went from their developmental system at the time, OVW, to WWE, and was a mainstay there for many, many years, literally spanning a couple decades. Yeah, so I mean, I think for guys like him, it is kind of exciting to step out of that bubble and to see how wrestling is outside of WWE structure and culture. And I heard him say that in the promo. And it's absolutely true. And I could see how, as a professional and as someone who takes his craft and his art form seriously, it would be intriguing to try a completely different style and a completely different environment. So I really felt the genuine enthusiasm that he has to try something different in TNA.
Yeah, then obviously you mentioned there obviously with Macklin confronting him. Did you see what obviously Macklin said to him at the end?
Yeah, he said something to the effect of, people are only going to remember you as the guy who was Dolph Ziggler or something to that effect, right?
Yeah. And it's not many times I watched a wrestling segment going, but this one I'm like, holy crap, they went
that was a good line. That was a good line. I like that. I like when they take reality and kind of like integrate it into the story, because in all likelihood, people are just going to remember him as Dolph Ziggler. So I think it's kind of a semi-valid point, but it was a point made by the heel to try to take a stab at the babyface, and it felt real, and I like that. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously TNA, obviously not well. Impact's obviously gone back to TNA now, and I've got to be honest, it has piqued my interest as well. There's a lot of different things. Obviously, there's the belts, obviously change. They've obviously signed some obviously talent here from the UK as well. Even the stage thing, I think the whole vibe for me watching it, because I've obviously watched it since they've gone back to the old one. I'm like, I'm really intrigued. I will be honest.
That Vegas setup looked great. I don't know if that's how it's going to look every week, but what really caught my eye, there's a couple things about the aesthetic of it. dare I say, it almost had kind of an ECW Hammerstein ballroom feel. It's like the crowd felt like it was really super close to the ring. There wasn't a large outside the ring space.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seemed like the guardrails were closer to the ring, and the crowd, like, it just looked like a full packed arena. Little show, obviously, a little stadium venue, and I like the red, the yellow ropes with the red TNA logo. I thought that was nice. It was a really good looking show. The crowd was white hot, and yeah, I liked it. I hope they keep that aesthetic moving forward. I don't know what the show is going to look like beyond Vegas and the hard to kill setup, but I hope it looks like that still.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what obviously the future holds for TNA. So, one last story we're obviously going to touch on briefly because we're doing an episode on it next week. Now, in New Japan, when I think of New Japan, I think of I call them the four pillars. We obviously got Ospreay, we've got Naito, we've got Tanahashi, we've got Okada. Well, Ospreay's obviously gone to AEW. Naito, obviously still there. Tanahashi, I feel like could be more, backstage, if that makes sense. Which leaves to my last one, which is obviously Okada leaving New Japan. I don't know. This is really shocking for me, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't. It is because he's so ingrained in Japanese culture.
Mm-hmm.
He's an icon there. He's a huge star. His wife, and I didn't know this, but his wife's apparently a famous actress in Japan. And she's actually a lot more famous than he is.
Okay.
Yeah, he's apparently married to some like hotshot actress out there in Japan. So I don't know if I could see him like fully moving to the United States because she's probably not going to leave Japan and come to the US and live.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wonder if he's going to get a deal where almost kind of like, dare I say, like Rio in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'll just show up a few times a year and, work for a few weeks and then go back to Japan, kind of like how Rio does. But I don't know. We're going to do a whole show on this next week, and I'll get more into my thoughts about this. But I think it's very interesting, and I just think he hit his ceiling in New Japan. He's been 7-time IWGP champion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. What did they say? He headlined like 12 Wrestle Kingdoms or something crazy like that. I mean, the guy's done everything there is to do in New Japan. So I think he's just going to kind of do the Nakamura thing. Like he hit his ceiling. He's done everything there is to do. He's going to move on and just try something else for a few years until he finally completely hangs it up and probably returns to Japan full time in some kind of, managerial administrative role at some point.
Yeah. And like I said, we're not going to talk about it much because we're doing obviously a full show on it next week because there's so much obviously to cover.
Yeah, Okada may have a schedule like Pac. Yeah, I mean, I assume he'll have some kind of quasi part-time schedule where he just kind of comes in for weeks at a time and then leaves for a couple months. And I could see him doing something like that.
Yeah, like I said, we're not going to talk about it much. Like we're doing a full show on it next week because I've got loads on it. We could literally do a full hour on it, so that's why we're doing it next week. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, what can we say really? Weird.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting topic to dive into, and we could get into the ramifications of New Japan and how this could possibly change either AEW or WWE. The wild card of Impact being involved. We'll get into all of that. I think it's going to be a good discussion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that obviously wraps up the Magic Weekly. So we've got everything out of the way. Shall we get into the main event?
Let's do it, brother.
The main event.
There we go. Done. What? Of course, the main event is brought to you by our second sponsor, which is, of course, the Kill City Cup. The only way I could actually describe this, because I obviously say it every single week, it's Mortal Kombat meets wrestling. Got a nice little video to show you what it's all about, and then we'll just show you how we can watch it.
Welcome to the Kill City Cup. What a ball!
Awesome. As that obviously video was playing, obviously we do believe we've got somebody backstage. Mr. Canada Dry, hello
Hey
there.
there.
Hello, first time caller, long time listener.
I did have the little pop sound. Like, did you ever hear like in old radio shows when someone's like, "Yeah, I'm a long time first time," and they play the little, like you're popping your cherry. I need to put that on my soundboard when somebody says that.
Well, definitely. If we have a new person calling in, I think that's a great idea. But obviously, I'm not a first time caller.
Of course. Well, you're here kind of dry. You might as well, Mr. Isaacs, take it away. Number 10 on the list.
Number 10. Let me take a look here. We've got Winged Eagle, baby. Now, for most people out there, I think particularly in this audience, this is going to be the belt that resonates with them as the world championship belt. It's the classic belt that Hulk Hogan had. It's the classic belt that Bret the Hitman Hart had, that Shawn Michaels won. This is the championship belt of the 90s, in my opinion. What are you guys' thoughts and thoughts about the history of the Winged Eagle belt and what it represents for pro wrestling? And I will start with our esteemed guest.
Take it away,
I think it's the greatest championship belt of all time.
Yeah.
Like I adore this belt. To me, it's like it just has so much legacy behind it and so much value.
Yeah.
Like it's just so beautiful. It just makes me cry a little bit inside.
This is one that I came very close to physically touching, but I didn't.
It's a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, because like I was at a house show, a WWE house show, with a friend of mine, and it's when Bret Hart was champion, and he was walking back after his match, and he had Winged Eagle over his shoulder and walked right past me, and I could have reached out and physically touched it, and I didn't for some reason. I froze
Do you
up.
regret that? You wish you would have.
I wish I had touched it. Yeah, I do.
Like Bret's holding it. It makes it even more valuable.
Yeah.
It's Bret's belt at that point.
Yeah, I mean that image is always burned in my brain. When I think about this title, I think about Bret standing literally right in front of me, holding that belt on his shoulder.
I mean,
It's
for me,
iconic.
it is. It's funny you mentioned Bret, because obviously when you pick this belt, that's the first wrestler I think of. Do you know, with this, obviously when he won it, holding it up. Yeah, I mean, when you think of wrestling, there's so many iconic moments just with this belt alone. We could be here for absolutely hours. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I had a toy replica of this belt when I was a child. And then I had like all the like Hasbro figures, and like I can't remember which wrestler came with it. It might have been Hogan, but like one of the wrestlers came with a little Winged Eagle belt. So like you could, when you had your matches, you could put a Winged Eagle belt on whoever was the winner. Yeah. So I mean, this is the iconic championship for me as a fan.
And of course, it's one of our belts we have in AFW. We put the F and Wrestling logo in there, and one day I'm gonna get the custom F and Wrestling Winged Eagle belt podcast. Before I go and you move to the next one, I'd just like to say what my favorite belts, I guess right now are, and another belt you'll probably have on the list somewhere. So first, I'll say my favorite. My second favorite would be Big Gold.
Yeah,
You'll probably talk about that somewhere down the line before. But I just want to mention I love that belt. I love the little red rubies all over it.
Yeah,
The red rubies are a nice touch. For me, the best belt in wrestling today is that belt right over Samoa Joe's shoulder. Like it looks like $1 million. Like all the diamonds are like. I didn't think they could improve the one that MJF had, but this one's just a little bit better, and it's
Absolutely. And I see you've got a replica behind you.
Yes, I'm like, I want to throw it out and get the real one. It looks like such trash compared to the one that Samoa Joe's got.
Yeah, it's a damn good looking belt for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, guys,
Absolutely.
we'll see you on, and we'll continue watching in the comments.
Thanks
Okay.
for calling in, Aaron.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. There we go. Now we're gonna get to number 9, and the weird thing is we've all got a picture of it, and it's also behind me. Weirdly,
Yeah. Go ahead and put it up there. Let's take a look at it.
so it's the IWGP United States title. The one thing I like about this is the design's so weird. It's different. It's something you're not used to seeing. And when I think of this, I've got to think of probably one of the best British wrestlers right now, Will Ospreay. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a damn good looking belt. Like,
There we go. That's a nice little replica for it.
yeah, that is amazing. I mean, look at the red, white, and blue, both on the side panels as well as like the main one in the middle there. That just absolutely looks fantastic. The red strap, absolutely gorgeous belt. I love that. I think wasn't the first IWGP US champion Kenny Omega, if I'm not mistaken.
It was, because if I remember rightly, it was him and Jericho obviously fought for it as well at one point.
Yeah, it was whenever he went up against Jericho. That's who I think about when I think about that title, which is funny. You think about a Brit and I think about a Canadian holding an American title. Yeah, but I mean, they kind of created this kind of be like their Gaijin title, like the non-Japanese contingency in New Japan, a title they can aspire for, which of course, they eventually created their strong brand, and that kind of has something to do with it too. So GM Joe says that Kenny beat Ishii for it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I think I do remember Ishii having it as well. GM Joe says, a shame New Japan's done away with a lot of great title designs. Yeah, God bless that new IWGP title they've had for a couple of years. Good God, go back to the original. That thing sucks.
Yeah, it's. I wanted to put one of the world titles on it, but some of the designs for IWGP I'm not a really big fan of. That's why I stuck with this
I'm
one.
not a huge fan of their designs. I mean, that one right there is awesome, and that's the best it gets with the IWGP.
Mm-hmm.
Haney says AEW fanboy.
Oh dear. Right then,
Haney, we're gonna get you to chime in on what your favorite title belt is.
Yeah, Haney, if you're not busy, join in. Like, belt. And speaking of which, Mr. Golden Graham is in the house. Mr. Golden Graham, hello there. Uh-oh.
Golden Graham, what's up, brother?
Oh, not much, guys. How we doing?
Very well, mate. How are you?
What's on your mind,
I'm
buddy?
doing good. Oh, nothing. I just wanted to call in, give my 2 cents on some of the belts that I like.
Yeah, what
because
do
I
you
imagine some of them that I say will be on your list. But for me personally, like I love the WWE Undisputed title from the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a sweet design. But I also love the WCW United States title.
Yes.
I love, and then the last one I'm going to give a shout out to is the NWA television title, the one that Arn Anderson held all the time.
That one's on the list. We're going to talk about it. The WCW US title came very close to making my list, but I etched it out.
I love the design. It's so different. It stands out. But it's hard because, like, I'm sitting here thinking I can probably list off 10 title designs that I like right now. So
all the US titles look great. They all do. The US one looks great. The IWGP we just talked about looks amazing. It's like the American flag just looks like it's made for a championship belt.
See, I disagree because I hate the current US title belt in WWE. I think it's stupid.
That one's okay. Yeah. The old WCW one's better.
I know this is kind of off topic, but the worst U.S. title belt was Cena's spinner belt. That thing was god awful.
It sold a lot though for kids, though. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know, but good lord, that thing was ugly.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the spinner belts. Yeah, either one of them.
Yeah, but yeah, the thing is, this is probably one where it was really difficult to pick 10 because there's so many great designs. So the fact you've come on obviously give your obviously favorites as well, it's absolutely incredible.
You should have made this like a series and did like best 10 WWE, best 10 WCW, best 10 Japanese belts, or WCW / NWA. You could probably do a list like that.
Yeah, we're going to
there's just so many
discussing the intricacies of the WCW Cruiserweight title and the WWE one that had the purple strap.
European
You know what
title.
else I like? You know what that I think is a little underrated was I love the WCW hardcore title belt. I don't know why.
I don't remember what that looked like.
No, I don't.
I just enjoyed it. Like the titles. See, I know Mr. Isaacs, you're a fan of like the UFC belts where they're all the same. Me personally, I like belts that are different because they're supposed to be like tiers. Like I get with UFC because they're all the champion of a division, so you don't really care about the divisions. But like clearly, like I don't want my IC title to look like my world title because they're two distinct divisions and steps in titles. But that's just me.
No, it's a valid point for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Or maybe they could do
All right,
something
guys.
where like the Bane one's gold and like the Intercontinental silver, and then like maybe they could do some kind of tier system like that. But yeah, I definitely get that point.
But I have to agree. I do love that new AEW title belt that Samoa Joe carries around. Like I grown to like MJF's Burberry belt, but that gold on that black just pops so well. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, guys. I'm going to hop
Thanks
off.
for
I'll keep
joining us,
watching you on YouTube.
All
Mr.
right,
Isaacs, I'll see you tonight.
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
Yeah, guys.
Have a good one.
I love this. That obviously people giving their opinions as well. So, but yeah, there's
People
so
are
many
excited about this topic, man, and rightfully so. Like this is something kind of left field, but it's like a fun topic that we don't think to talk about much.
No, exactly. And speaking of which, we're on at number 8.
Number 8. Let me get my banners back up here. And Aaron talked about this one, but we can elaborate a little further on it. We've got the World Heavyweight Championship belt. Now, this belt has got quite a lineage, and this is like very close for me as my like number 2 most iconic belt of all time, because this obviously was the NWA belt for a brief period of time, and then became the WCW belt. But it has a storied lineage of, having a dispute with Ric Flair, leaving with the belt, taking it to WWE. I actually saw that at a WWE house show when I was a kid because Flair was still packing that belt around, and they kind of like radioed it out on television, but I actually really saw it in person. So that's kind of a weird anomaly too. And, it eventually became the WCW championship eventually merged into the World Heavyweight Championship and was defended on SmackDown for many years.
Now, shall we get salty? Because there's somebody salty backstage. You know who I'm talking about, right?
I think we need some salt here. It's icy here on the roads today, so I need some salt. So, Haney, if you could provide some salt, I would be much obliged.
I would be more than happy to provide some salt into this peppery meal.
Take it away, Haney.
Today.
Sorry, I missed what you moved on to while I was joining because obviously my phone cut out the audio. So, what belt are you talking about?
The big gold.
The last one we were talking about is the World Heavyweight Championship belt, the iconic WCW Championship belt that eventually became the World Heavyweight Championship on SmackDown for a number of years. That's the one we're talking about right now. What do you think about that particular belt, Haney?
Yeah, that's certainly one of my favorite belts. It just has so much history behind it. Well, the obvious ones being guys like Flair and things like that. What was it? What was it? And obviously through the great WCW run, but was it the late 90s as well? It was sort of prominent, so quite an important designer. Obviously, but was it went away for a wee while and then came back. I agree with Joe with regards to the unified belt that the WWE had. Or what was it once they sort of merged the two together? The one that Jericho had, that was the best belts I think there's been. But yeah. But it was a very nice belt.
Yeah, and I was telling Liam while you were waiting on hold there, you might not have heard that the one time I saw that belt in person was at a WWE house show in the early 90s that Flair was at.
Yeah.
And Flair brought the belt out. So that's the only time, ironically, the only time I actually physically saw that in person was when Flair had it on the competitors program.
I mean, sorry. Ironically, through all the events that I've went to, I've never seen it. But it was at an event. So always when they did a tour over here, it was either Raw or SmackDown, you know, and it always sort of, whatever the tour was, it always seems to sort of avoid the sort of WWE. I never got to see that belt live in person.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous belt. I mean, I've heard people jokingly refer to it as the peanut brittle belt because it kind of looks like a piece of peanut brittle. It's a gorgeous title, though. It's my number 2. It's like right below Winged Eagle for me in importance.
Yeah, the one thing
Sorry, Liam.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, are you doing these in order, or are these just in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
Yeah, we typically just do a random order, but yeah. We didn't actually rank them, but for me, that's my number 2.
Yeah, and the one thing I like about this, obviously, belt, is you're talking about one which has been in 3 different promotions. You mentioned NWA, you mentioned WCW, and obviously WWE. So when you think of history, this has got to be up there, do you know, for wrestling belts?
Yeah, it has to be, without a doubt.
I mean, the belt for me that has all the history is the NWA belt. You know, that 10 pounds of gold. That's just, to me, is the definitive wrestling belt. You know,
we're getting there. We got that on the list too.
I can imagine one of my favorite modern belts that not a lot of people talk about, but I think it was one of the best designs, I think, of any belt, was the NXT UK World Championship. Love the design of that. You know, it's quite weird because it's obviously got the same shape as the standard sort of WWE, what was it, Universal belt with the frame and things like that, but just the center of it was just beautiful with the sort of what was it, what do you call that? No, I've just slipped my mind, Liam. The crest thing, the crown jewels crest thing.
Yeah, it had like a little crest on it. Something about the UK or something.
I can picture it, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, I know exactly obviously what you're referring to. So
that was a gorgeous belt for sure.
We could even do a part 2 with this because there's just so many to choose from, really.
Absolutely.
And the other one I'm sort of like really devastated that it's not there anymore was the IWGP title, the version 4. You know, the one that, you know, just what a championship, you know. And I've seen that in person, and it was just a chunky thing, you know. It was layered and all that. The lettering all stood out. Everything was just so nicely done in it, you know. It looked like a proper sort of championship belt.
Yeah, I don't like the current IWGP Heavyweight Championship. I think that looks like shit.
You know, look at the shape of it. You know what it reminds me of? The shape of the WWE Divas belt. That's what
it does. It does look like the Divas belt.
I call it the Divas belt. You know,
the butterfly belt. Yeah,
because it's got that sort of butterfly look to it, and it's just that's what I call. That's what I refer to it as a Divas belt. You know. Because you know what I'm like. I'm a sort of get, you know.
No, that's legit, dude. Like, it really does. It looks like the butterfly Divas build. I never made that connection, but that's literally what it looks like.
That is brilliant. Right, Haney, thank you obviously so much for stopping by.
Bye.
Thanks, Andy. Have a good one.
I love that. That's 3 people that are getting involved. And it was a simple concept, but it's getting people involved. I love it.
I'm telling you, man, like this was a gold mine of a topic. This has brought the community out. I like to see it.
Absolutely. So we're going to get...
It's the UK title. The details on it were amazing. GM Joe says, I'm just catching up on comments a little bit here. GM Joe also says, the current IWGP title reminds me of Cody's neck tattoo. It does kind of have the shape of Cody's neck tattoo also.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. We're on now number 7?
Yes, that's one of yours, right?
Okay, so I went for the WWE World Tag Team Championships, which was obviously from the 80s to the noughties. The one thing I've always been a big fan of in wrestling is obviously tag team wrestling. And this design for the tag team belts has been absolutely terrific. I mean, I could list so many tag teams, obviously, who's had the belts, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, Demolition, probably even more. I've not named it. But yeah, I mean, this for me is like the pinnacle when it comes to tag team wrestling.
Yeah, it's to me that this is the all-time greatest tag team belts. Yeah, I mean these are iconic, and like you said, like I grew up seeing this as the definitive tag team championship. The Hart Foundation, all those guys had this belt. Demolition, I love Demolition. They had these belts, and I like the fact that it also was retained through the Attitude Era with the Dudleys and the Hardys. And I mean, this is the tag team title belt, in my opinion. I love this belt.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, this is probably why I got into tag team wrestling, because I felt like these belts were like clinical, and I feel like after this, the designs kind of went downhill. I will be honest.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the ones that they use now, I mean, they're okay. They had the ones for a while that look like giant pennies. At least now they're silver. They look like silver dollars, but they literally look like giant pennies before. And I've just never been a big fan of those.
No, not at all. Now, the next one, obviously, a lot of people like this one. It's one of yours, and I'm so glad you picked this one.
Oh, yes. I mean, this one, as far as importance goes, this has probably got to be. I mean, you can make an argument for 2, but it could be 3. And it is the old school NWA, quote unquote, 10 pounds of gold. Now, what I love about this one, aside from the actual lineage of it, this being like the Dusty Rhodes title belt, that's who I think of when I think of this one. It just has such a like good but kind of minimalistic look. Like it's not incredibly flashy, but that's how NWA was. NWA in the 80s wasn't incredibly flashy, so it kind of had a minimalistic look the way that the NWA product had a minimalistic look. And I thought it really fit the aesthetic of it. And, it's just iconic to see like Dusty Rhodes holding this title and all the classic, Harley Race had this title with this big badass sideburns. like this is just an old school badass championship belt. And I love it. Like, what are your thoughts on the 10 pounds of gold?
The one thing I like is you see that these big muscly guys and stuff like that holding a belt, and it literally does not even look like so. The size is so unique for this that it's absolutely incredible, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is another one. And I'll tell you a funny story here. I saw this belt in person too, the 10 pounds of gold. And where I saw it was at a horror movie convention in Lexington, Kentucky. Do you remember the wrestler Rob Conway?
Yes, I do.
So the 10 pounds of gold obviously continued to be used after the NWA was not really much of a relevant organization. Adam Pearce, ironically, had it for a while. Colt Cabana was NWA champion for a while, and Rob Conway had it, who used to be in WWE as La Resistance. And he was at this convention with the title. So I actually saw it up close. And, I felt so bad for Rob Conway because, like, he was having to kind of try to explain to people who he was, which was just kind of, I felt really bad for him. He's like, yeah, I used to be in WWE. I was in La Resistance and blah, blah, blah. But he had the 10 pounds of gold over his shoulder because he was the reigning NWA heavyweight champion. And this is going to sound really bad, but I had no interest in meeting Rob Conway, but I really wanted to see that belt. And I almost offered to pay him just to take a picture with the belt and not with him. But I was like, I can't do that because he's going to take offense to that, I'm sure. But yeah, so I was like really super close to the 10 pounds of gold as well. That's just kind of a little funny story about how I saw that belt in person.
Yeah, and I think with all the ones obviously on our list, when you think of lineage, this has to be number one without hands down. Do you know what I mean? The history there, they're still using it obviously to this day, despite obviously being not as, I won't say as big as they are, but still obviously around. But yeah, I think for lineage, this has to be number one.
Yeah, I mean, arguably. I mean, you could definitely say this is number one because I mean, this one goes. I don't know how far back this championship goes. I don't know if this goes back to like the 60s. I don't know, but I know it was at least through the 70s and through the 80s, and this is just the championship belt. This was the world's heavyweight champion, and it's kind of cool that it's still being used today. I mean, obviously, NWA has fallen quite a bit in prestige since the 1980s, but it's still cool to see that belt around. I thought it was cool to see Nick Aldis, wearing a full suit and tie, carrying that belt around for a couple of years in the first year or two of NWA Power. It just has a regality to it that just looks incredible. Like, I love this belt.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so happy this was on the list, and I'm like, yeah, so happy, really great list. And yeah, well, we could literally go for a full hour just on this belt alone with the lineage, the history.
Check this out. R-Truth was the first black wrestler to hold it. Yeah, because people forget this belt was actually used in early TNA. Back when it was NWA TNA. So yeah, R-Truth was the first African American to hold this belt. That escaped me. The whole TNA part of this lineage escaped me. But yeah, this was the world heavyweight championship of NWA TNA back when it first started.
Yeah, do you know what? I completely forgot about that. I actually forgot you're actually in TNA as well, weirdly.
Yeah, because it was NWA TNA for a little while under the Jarretts.
There you go. So obviously,
watched Adam Pearce back then. Yeah. I mean, Adam Pearce was like a notable NWA champion for quite a while.
Absolutely. So we're up to number 5 now. Now, this one for me, when I think of the Attitude Era, this Stone Cold, Triple H, The Rock, Kurt Angle, that's the big four when I think of this actual belt. And it's a great design. I mean, it's not as good as obviously the first world title cover, but what do you think about this belt?
I'm a big fan of this belt. I wasn't happy that they got rid of Winged Eagle for this belt, but this is still a damn good looking belt. I mean, this is the Stone Cold Steve Austin belt. Like, this is what he debuted. He beat Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14, won the championship, held up the Winged Eagle title one time, and then like this belt is the one that was presented to him afterwards. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was the whole deal where he pretended he was going to be Vince McMahon's corporate champion and came out in a suit and tie. And Vince presented this new belt to him, to which he then stunned Vince and ripped the suit off and said, "You're a dumb son of a bitch." But that was how this title belt was debuted. And, I think about Austin in the suit with that belt on his shoulder. I think about Kane. Kane had this belt for a little while. Triple H, obviously. I mean, this was the kind of the latter Attitude Era World Heavyweight Championship. So to me, it's pretty iconic for that reason, that this was the championship belt that millions of people watched back when wrestling was still super relevant in pop culture.
Now, I've got a little sidebar, obviously, for this. Now, when obviously the WWE games came out where you could actually create belts, I would purposely create this actual belt. That's how much I actually liked it, in the actual game.
Yeah. But you used to be able to, you used to have such deep customization back in the day. Like, you could make pretty much anything, make a belt, make a ring. You could still make rings, I think, but you could create a belt. You could make storylines. Like, it was pretty deep. But yeah, I do recall being able to do that.
Yeah, this was the actual design that I always made for some bizarre reason. I don't know why. Looking back now, I'm thinking, why did I do that? But,
Hey, that's what you had in your brain as the heavyweight championship at the time.
Absolutely. So we're up to, obviously, number 4 now. And this was quite an interesting one.
Yeah, this one, this is kind of a wild card one that I'm kind of putting out there just because I absolutely love the design of this belt. I think it is the most gorgeous modern day belt that I've seen. And it is the Ring of Honor World Championship. Now, I should note, this is the pre-Tony Khan era Ring of Honor Heavyweight Championship. This is the Heavyweight Championship belt that Cody carried around when he was Ring of Honor Heavyweight Champion. I just absolutely love this belt. I think it's so aesthetically pleasing. I think it's beautiful. I think the shape of it is perfect. The size of it's perfect. It looks like a great prestigious championship belt. Like, what are your thoughts on this era's Ring of Honor championship that held by Cody and held by Jay Briscoe and Jay Lethal? They all carried this championship belt. Adam Cole, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, when I look through obviously the whole like Ring of Honor, world title designs, because I will be honest, I didn't watch much Ring of Honor back in the day. I did watch some stuff, but not at all. And you're absolutely right. I think out of all the designs, this one has to be obviously my favorite. I mean, you're talking obviously Cody Rhodes there, obviously went on to obviously create AEW and stuff like that. Jay Briscoe, again, lineage. Do you know what I mean? The one key thing we spoke about a lot today is obviously the lineage with belts. And for me, this one has to be the key one for Ring of Honor.
Yeah, this one is just absolutely amazing. Joe says we ought to bring back this Ring of Honor title. Aaron wants me to show it again. Let me show it. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Like the red gems and the way it meshes with the black and just the design of the plate and the like diamond looking things in the middle there and the classic, that Ring of Honor Sinclair era logo. It just looks amazing to me. Like, I hate the Ring of Honor title they use now. It looks so generic and shitty. Like, to me, this is the belt they should have kept. This belt is amazing. And as far as design goes, this is my favorite modern era title belt. Like, it just looks great.
Do you think with the Ring of Honor titles, obviously I'm talking all the titles, do you think they don't get as much love as they actually deserve, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just the Sinclair era of Ring of Honor was good, but it's not the revered era of Ring of Honor. So it probably doesn't have as much cachet with a lot of wrestling fans, but I just love the design of it personally.
Absolutely. So
Aaron said I would make the text pop out more. Yeah, I mean, you can make some adjustments to it, but my personal opinion, I think it's absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely. So this next one, is it number 3 we're up to?
Yes.
So this is an interesting one because this was kind of the concept of doing this idea was, I love this new design, and it's, of course, the new TNA World title. Now, when I look back through to some of the TNA titles, I'm not a really big fan. I didn't like the old one. I didn't like the one before that. This, for me, just looks fresh. It looks different. It looks modern. I mean, what do you think?
That's a very good looking belt, and I hadn't really looked at it or paid much attention to it until just now. But wow, that is a good looking title. But I love the old school TNA logo in the middle, the big plate size. I love the little TNA and the Anthem logo even on the far end there. I mean, it's a nice touch. I like it. I think it's a pretty good looking belt aesthetically.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to put something like more modern, and this is obviously what stuck out for me. And yeah, I mean, what do you reckon to the old designs from TNA?
I always thought TNA kind of had shitty looking titles, to be honest with you. I was never really a fan of how their belts looked. Aaron says all the new TNA belts look the same. I'm going to be totally honest. I really haven't looked at them all, but I'll take a look at them. But I think this particular belt looks really good, man. I like the design of it. I think it looks good, and I think it kind of sets the standard of what this new era of TNA is going to be. It's got that old school TNA logo with kind of a new flair to it. I like it, man. I can't hate on it.
There you go. So we're up to number 2 now.
Number 2. Oh yes, I love this. Love this championship belt, and I think GM Joe mentioned this one earlier. And that is the old school NWA television heavyweight champion. Look at that gorgeous piece of silver with red mixed in there. You've got an eagle. You've got a ring in the middle there with 2 guys grappling, and CBS and ABC, 2 American networks that aired NWA. Yeah. ABC over here, CBS. Yeah. This is just such a gorgeous belt. To me, this is the Arn Anderson belt, because Arn Anderson was the guy who usually was the NWA television champion back in the late 80s. And I just love this belt. I prefer silver over gold. I just like it better. I prefer silver. So if I ever had a ring or something, I always got silver. I didn't get gold. And I just love it. It's the only major title belt, aside from maybe like the WWE Cruiserweight belt and like the new WWE tag belts, which those all kind of sucked. That was like a silver belt. And it looks amazing. I love the design of this belt. What did you think of the NWA Silver Television Championship belt?
I mean, it's definitely something different, and you're absolutely right. When I think of belts, I always think of gold, some sort of like gold. And when you see obviously something silver, you're absolutely right. It's different, it's unique, and there's, like you said there, obviously the little thing with the guys grappling, the logos on it. It just, for me, it stands out something unique and different. That's what I like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so different, and I love it. And like GM Joe says, this title belongs to Arn Anderson. I mean, Arn Anderson is like the one person I can think of immediately when I think about this belt. I mean, this was like kind of, and the television division was always kind of like the work rate title. It was always like the guys that were like really good in the ring, but they weren't the big flashy promo guys. And I'm not saying Anderson can't cut a good promo. He's amazing at that. But, this was like the belt to watch back in the day. And it stands out to me. It's iconic. I love it. Aaron says, my name's Canada Dry, damn it. Yeah, I said Aaron says my name's Canada Dry, damn it. I'll quit calling you Aaron when you quit calling me Jeremy.
Right then, so we've got one more belt to obviously cover, and being from the UK, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't put a UK belt in, right? Let's be honest.
Oh, of course. Of course.
I was looking for different promotions in the UK, and the only one I obviously which stuck out for me is obviously Progress Wrestling's world title belt, and basically that's this one right here. Now,
nice.
The one thing I like about this is it's plain and simply the black makes everything stand out, and I have seen this obviously in person, being at a Progress show, and wow, I just love it. It's something different. It's small, and I feel like this is probably the best. I mean, what do you know about this actual belt?
I don't know that I've ever seen it before, but man, that is so good looking. Like, I love the fact that there's a lot of black in it. It kind of accentuates the gold super well with the logo. Almost kind of looks like a Batman-esque kind of logo in a way. But like, yeah, I mean, that's a very good looking belt, man. I like that. Nice little black and gold design there. And I like it. I hadn't actually seen it before, but I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, and like I said, with some belts we've covered, obviously you've got a mixture of colors. I just really wanted to obviously, put something where it's got like two colors. Tiffany says she absolutely loved it.
Fan of it, and GM Joe's a big fan of it too. Yeah, that's a damn good looking belt, man. Like I said, I don't know that I ever seen it before, paid much attention to it, but it's really good looking. Do they still use that belt today?
This is the one that's still currently used today. So, and what really winds me up is they actually put on their thing doing, we're going to be selling a replica, but I missed the time frame, and I wasn't really good because I absolutely love this belt.
Ooh, Haney says Walter with that belt was epic. Yeah, I can see that.
There's some big names, obviously.
Looks cheap.
Screw you. Oh dear. But yeah, I mean, of course, being from the UK, I wanted to put something from the UK, right? Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest too. You chose that US belt because Osprey had it.
I can confirm nor deny.
No, but yeah, I mean, it's a good looking belt. It's different for sure, but I like it. I like the fact that it looks unique.
Now, like I said, that's
replica costs the same to make.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, this has been a fun show. Do you know what I mean? We've had so many people get involved.
We got Haney and Canada Dry sniping at each other in the chat now.
Shall we just leave them to it and move on?
What if we just sat here and just let the show run for another 30 minutes and just sat here and watched them go back and forth in the chat?
I mean, we could do it for 10 minutes if you want.
But I'm glad to see that this was a hit topic with everybody, because like when Liam presented this idea to me, like I immediately jumped on it and I was like, dude, that is a great topic. It's just something kind of left field, something kind of different that I don't think I've ever seen a podcast cover just belt designs before. So Kudos to you, man. This was a great idea.
Yeah, and the one thing obviously I like to do on this show is we want to be unique, do different things. I mean, you guys obviously watch this show. If you guys have got a show idea you want us to do, let us know. Do you know what I mean? Reach out, message us saying, "Wait, do a show on this." Do you know what I mean? And that should throw me off.
Haney pooped his pants. And then Tiffany says, "Go away, Haney."
But yeah, if you guys have got show ideas, do you know what I mean? Let us know. Do you know what I mean? We'll even get you on the show. Do you know what I mean? We always obviously like people to get involved, and obviously that's the big part of us today's show, to be honest.
Rennie, we're sorry you missed the show, but go back and watch it because we talked about title belts. But yes, this was an amazing show. I loved it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's time to plug everything, I believe, right?
Let's do it.
So if you guys obviously want to get a t-shirt, you can head to prowrestlingtees.com/wrestling. You can get the Magic of Wrestling t-shirt, which is modeled by Mr. Isaacs there, just saying. The All Effing Wrestling shirt, which is modeled by a friend of the show, Natalia Markova. And Mr. Isaacs, you know the deal. Tell everybody about the old school.
If you like old school wrestling, and I know you do, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Adrian Adonis. And you can get
it was on a recent episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Now, I just want to put a special shout out to obviously one of my friends who's basically started out his own little clothing brand. He doesn't know I've done this, by the way. He's doesn't know anything about this, but guys, if you can, go check this out. Fast Count Clothing UK. He's got some amazing, obviously, designs. As I say, he's just started out. There is obviously some designs obviously he's going to be putting up, and yeah, show the love, man. Just tell him
I
that
like
I
the
sent
butcher
you.
one there. It looks like a nice death metal t-shirt. I like
Which
that.
one?
The butcher one there at the bottom.
It's obviously a wrestler's name, so UK talent. Do you know what I mean? Go check it out. You will not be disappointed. And yeah, been a fun show. Are these still bitching in the comments?
Haney said Aaron falls through every time he opens his mouth. I don't know what he means by that. Like he's shitting out of his mouth. Is that what he's trying to say? I think I missed some context there. I don't know.
And of course, guys, if you want to follow us on social media, Mr. Isaacs, that is obviously your Instagram, your Twitter as well, I believe, and your YouTube.
Yes, you can find me on YouTube. It's just gaming content on there if you want to watch video on demand of me playing Call of Duty, or I think I have a Fight Forever on there as well. You can check that out. You can also find me on X. X gonna give it to you, and Instagram under the name @MrIsaacs.
Of course, and obviously mine's the Effing Magician. That is obviously on my YouTube as well. I'm obviously doing a bit of gaming myself. We will be doing obviously some gaming between us both. We haven't decided when yet, but
I thought I was going to say the name Mr. Kennedy style, and Haney says, "Damn, sounds hateful."
Yeah.
William, do you guys have Avon in the UK?
Yes, we do.
So when I was a kid, like all the like old ladies in the neighborhood would like go around and try to sell like all the mothers Avon products, and that's what I think of every time is like old women coming to the house trying to sell my mom Avon.
I think we better go before we get kicked off the air. So
yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
Mr. Isaacs, you do this every week. Do you know what I mean? See us out to the outro.
We'll keep it kind of short and simple this week, guys. You know the spiel. We're all struggling. We all have our issues. We've all got stuff we're dealing with, mental, physical, economic, or whatever. You got to hang in there, man. You know, come in here and hang out with us. Send us a message. You know, reach out to somebody if you just want to talk or you just need somebody to uplift your spirits. That's what we're here to do. We're here to entertain. We're here to have fun. We're here to talk about the mindless entertainment of professional wrestling. But in reality, at the base level, we're all here to just create a supportive community where we can all just participate and support each other and prop each other up and help each other out. That's what this is all really about. And I want you all to know that you all are welcome to come to me anytime you want. I'm sure Liam feels the same way and everybody else that's involved. And We're all here for you, man. We're all one big community. We're going to be strong. We're going to have a hell of a 2024. I can sense it. So just put your fist in the air. Remember to always just keep fighting.